Hello, everyone. We're here today with Nora Kovats. She's a jewellery and enamelist. She's based in Bamberg, Germany. And what I really love about Nora's work is how it feels alive. It's full of color. It's a story, and every piece that she creates carries that sense of wonder and devotion. And it's like a little prayer that you can hold in your hands. I found Nora in one of those moments where my creative fire was a bit low. And I stumbled on her website in a piece which is called The Creative Compass. And I thought that that piece wasn't just a list of motivational mantras or productivity. It was actually 9 guiding principles that help you live and create with joy and devotion. And I thought that that was something that is not specifically made for artists, but actually for everyone who wants to live with more presence and wants to remember that beauty, craft, and care are not luxuries, but actually ways of being. So this is why I wanted to bring here Nora today and to hear the story behind this and explore how it can guide not only her work, but ours too. So hello, Nora. Thank you for being here.
Hello. I'm so thrilled to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Before we dive into those 9 points, I want to go back to where it all began because every compass has a first place where it starts to be drawn. So I would like to know a little bit more about you. So you grew up in a farm in the Cape Winelands and you were surrounded by nature, lights, lots of imagination. So I would like for you to share a little bit more about that world, what you remember, what shaped you, and maybe what colors filled your life back then.
Thank you. Yes, I'm from South Africa originally, but as you can hear from my accent, um I'm from German and also Hungarian heritage, but I grew up there. We also have Swedish ancestors, so as you can imagine, we were many things, not just one. And I think that's what shaped my childhood. I come from a family where everyone is many things culturally and also in the jobs they did and the kind of crafts they practiced. And everyone had several things that they did. My parents were musicians. My father's a double bass player. My mother also a double bass player, but also she also does a lot of other things like teaching. And I see her as an improver of situations. She had a lovely garden, which I remember as a child, as did my grandparents. So these gardens were really important for me to play in my formative years, as was my grandparents' vineyard and farm where we grew up. So the gardens, but these were gardens that combined indigenous South African flora, so the fynbos, which is a lot of heather and a lot of proteas, but also with European plants. So there was already a fusion of European heritage and South African indigenous botany. Yeah. So I was surrounded by music and art and nature, and it was very important to me, fairy tales as well, and mythology. My childhood was really infused by that. Yeah. So eventually I decided to study jewelry design in Stellenbosch, which is a city close to Cape Town. And
Beautiful.
it's got, yeah.
Been
Sorry?
there. Been there.
Yes, yes.
Really a beautiful place.
Yeah, and the beautiful thing about jewelry design there is that it integrates theory and practice quite well. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but it was a good start for me because I wanted to do a craft. I was pretty sure of that. I also wanted to combine my love for nature and costume and fashion, but I think when you're young, you just start out and you just follow a trail, and eventually you see how everything comes together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's very easy to see why your compass starts with connecting with nature and you
Yes.
see nature as a rhythm that shows up constantly in your life, personal life, but also in your work. So let's
Yes.
start there. That sense of belonging to something larger, more alive. And you speak of creativity as part of an ecosystem, basically. So my question is, do you feel that your creative rhythm still follows the seasons?
Absolutely. It follows the seasons I mean, like autumn, winter, summer, but also different kinds of seasons. And I think there are cycles in cycles. So the smaller cycles of creativity, when you come up with an idea and then you hatch it and then it's all a mess and eventually it takes on shape. That's one cycle. And then there's the cycle in my work, which is a yearly cycle of creating and then being outgoing in summer and more introspective in winter. Well, I live in the northern hemisphere, so it's very seasonal. There's a huge difference between summer, where everyone's just outside the whole time, and winter, where it's all dark. And I really feel that in my work. The pre-Christmas season is the season we're moving into now, is the busiest and craziest season in terms of exhibitions.
Okay.
And then after that, there's a really sort of introspective, reflective season, which I try to cultivate as well. Sort of reflecting on the year past and coming up with new ideas. And then from the 1st of February, moving on to like Easter, that's the time of developing new things. And I really live that rhythm now. Yeah.
Okay, so you're basically in that season right now of the pre-Christmas.
The busyness, yes. Yes.
Does this correspond to your life season? It's like work and life, do they follow the same season or are they two separate?
Well, there are many different cycles in each other. But I feel like it's kind of an autumn, as in the end of a cycle, but it's kind of a harvesting season for me now.
Okay.
Because I've worked so hard for 10 years, being self-employed and being an independent jewelry maker. Yes, after 10 years of building and building, finally things are falling into place and coming back. And I mean, I've been living of what I do for a few years now, but for the first time, I can really feel like, wow, I'm harvesting now. The relationships are bearing fruit.
Oh.
And that's also very intense. I mean, you have to get in the harvest quickly,
Yeah.
but it's very rewarding.
So now that you're in your busy season, do you still find time to reconnect with the nature?
I do. Yeah, I have to make space, otherwise I'll go crazy.
Yeah.
Yes.
And what does that consist of? Just like, for example,
Going outside mainly, doesn't matter what the weather. I'm really fortunate in that I live very close to nature. I live on a hill above the old city of Bamberg, so I can be outside in the forest in 2 to 5 minutes
wow.
on foot. And I walk to work every day, so it's like 20 minutes, just a chilled walk down the hill, and it's through a pedestrian zone with lots of trees. And
That's
yeah.
guys kind of a starting ritual for your work. It's like a meditative walk to to
Yes.
work. Beautiful. The next point in your creative compass is the devotional craftsmanship.
Yes.
I really, really love that because you describe the making as something that is almost sacred. It's like a space where you move into an expanded state of being, where you're connected to something larger than yourself. And that is a beautiful image. It's also an image which brings me to think of your piece as something of like a prayer which carries your intention into the world. I got emotional reading that. It's beautiful. Does this devotional energy, let's say, begin only when you start making, or is it something that you carry in your let's say, throughout every moment of your day, or more or less?
Oh, I really try to make it a way of living. So when I make it, it's a reminder of it, like a very acute, meditative, it's happening now. But I think when I move out into the world, I constantly try to see things through that lens. And there are different kinds of devotion for sure. There's a kind of expansive, I love this kind of feeling. And there's a feeling of being really small and insignificant, which isn't a bad thing necessarily. And there's a feeling of belonging into a tradition. And I just try to remember it as often as I can.
Yeah, beautiful. It's a
Yeah.
beautiful suggestion. You said that every piece that you create carries your intention into the world. And
Yeah.
what intentions are you weaving in your pieces right now?
It's a good question. It's a really crazy time right now. So I think groundedness
Okay.
is important, feeling roots. And it doesn't mean you have to belong to the earth you're standing on necessarily in the sense of you were born there. I think It just means connecting to the earth wherever you are, feeling a sense of stability in the shifting tides, and also self-love, especially for those who identify as women, because I think traditionally we've been trained to give love away so much, and it's really, really necessary to love ourselves, to accept ourselves, to see the divine in ourselves, and um, to be able to give. You have to first sort of fill,
Yeah.
you know,
Your cup.
fill yourself. So I think that's the one of the main intentions now.
Beautiful. Do you ever see your pieces as little messages, prayers that travel long after you let them go?
Absolutely, yeah. It's different for everyone. So one part is the story I sort of infuse the piece with, and the other very important part is the person who's wearing it. And some pieces are made specifically for people as talismans or as amulets. I do a lot of those these days, but some people just project that onto a piece, and that's equally as important. And that's why really want my pieces to be out in the world. I don't cling to them. I'm really happy if they go
Yeah,
because I feel like there's a little part of me, but also what we talked about now, the intentions, but then it's also a vessel for someone else to project their story and their intentions and their wishes on,
absolutely.
which is just as important.
What do you hope people feel when they
Mm,
hold or wear something that you made?
warmth,
Warmth.
love,
Yeah.
curiosity, and a sense of wonder. I think
Mhm.
our world is so complex, and what we really need is more nuance. We need to know that things have many perspectives and many layers and many stories, even if it's just one thing. And I think I try to convey that in my pieces as well. The more you look at something, the more attention you pay to a piece, the more layers you can discover.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Beautiful. You describe this with such reverence. It's emotional. It's not making, but for life itself. And I think this brings us to the other point of your creative compass, which is re-enchanting the world. Beautiful again. So you say that re-enchantment is about restoring awe and mystery.
Mm.
And do you think that as makers, we carry a responsibility to keep that sense of wonder alive in the world?
Absolutely. I think for me, it's one of my core missions now. And it took me some years to be able to identify that as clearly or find words for it, articulate it. But it's how we reach people's hearts. It's really why artists are just as important as other, in quotation marks, necessary jobs like doctors or nurses or whatever. Just because it's our job to remind humanity what it is that we survive for. You know, if we survive whatever crisis it is, and there's nothing left of the culture and the enchantment and the wonder and the sense of magic that we can feel in the world, then there's no point.
Absolutely. And with these times where everything feels very heavy and there's lots of worry and
Mm.
how do you notice that wonder again when you have that sense of heaviness or that
I think it can be hard. It can be really, people can get so overwhelmed, and it includes me quite often. I have a whole sort of emergency kit of little rituals that I can do, light a candle or make some tea or just take a breath. Some books I go to, some pictures, colors, and also just going outside is so helpful. I know not everyone can do that, but yeah, I'm so lucky. For example, there's a tree that's like 7 minutes walk from my house, which is older than 400 years. It's an oak tree and it's just so massive. And you stand in front of this tree and you think, this tree was a sapling before the 30 Years' War. So at the beginning of the 1600s. That's like before the USA was formed. That's before South Africa existed. It's so long ago, and it's seen so many things come and go. And then you just think, yes, everything will just go on in some way, in some cycle. Yeah, so that grounds me a lot.
it also seems like this little rituals and things that you go back to bring you that sense of joy that you talk
Yes.
about. It's like cultivating joy. You described it as an insurance policy against doubt. Love that. And what brings you joy in your
I
process?
think the two are really connected. What you said, or the enchantment and the joy. The joy can be a path to enchantment, but joy can also be light and bubbly. And the enchantment sometimes is a bigger feeling, like a feeling of the divine. And joy doesn't have to be that. It can be
More like play.
play, light, bubbly,
Yeah.
fun. Yeah. So what brings me joy?
Right now. Like, is there anything specific that in your process?
Colors, mixing watercolors and seeing the edges sort of blur into each other. And the same with enameling when you have two different. I should probably quickly explain what enamel is. I don't know if everyone knows, but it's a kind of glass that is being fused onto metal,
Mm-hmm.
and it's burned in a kiln at 750 to 800 degrees Celsius. So what you have is a glossy molten layer on metal, and it can be intensely colorful, and it can also merge different colors into each other. Probably a little bit similar to watercolors in the effect. And I love seeing those colors merge. And yes.
Has this definition, let's say, of joy or what gives you joy changed over time?
I think yes, not the feeling so much. The feeling is the same. It's kind of a delicious, bumpy, shivery feeling, very visceral, but different things have given me joy over time. And
Okay.
I've allowed myself to find joy in different things. Right now, as a teenager, there was a time when there was a lot of shame and guilt. And now I just enjoy things without that. For example, food. I really love cooking. I love food and
Yeah.
flavor, and I can really find joy in that too.
Yeah. How do you
Um,
protect that joy when things get overwhelming? Let's say in this period that you're particularly busy, like things can get, a little bit too much. How do you protect that?
difficult. Ritual helps. And with ritual, I mean things you just do every day. That can be my morning coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And usually in the mornings, I have coffee and I write in my journal. And that's kind of non-negotiable. I just do that. And then as you sit there and you write, and I have a really beautiful fountain pen with a gold nib, and I can feel it gliding over the paper. And that's a feeling that gives me joy, and it comes non-negotiably.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just do, and then I can feel it
I
sort
get it.
of after that. Or like I said, food, we have to eat. So making it a non-negotiable part of
You're
my
talking
day.
to an Italian, so I can on food. It's always joy
Yeah, also for shopping for food, right?
and
On the
coffee.
market,
I'm
yes.
in for that. It belongs to me as well. Um, Definitely the energy of joy is very intertwined with the feminine.
Yes.
It mixes and it blends with our intuition, with the softness and the inner strength. So that's another big point on your compass, which is celebrating the sacred feminine and that power which is rooted in our intuitions, the cycles, the archetypes, like the pomegranate. And
Mm.
so what does feminine power mean to you right now in the season of life you're in?
Oh, I think it means standing my ground, mostly taking up the space that I meant to take up and not making myself smaller. In everyday situations, like in the queue at the baker's or on the street, and if someone comes and just sort of takes up more space than you, just widening your energy field a little bit. Say, I'm here too, and I need to take up this space in
Absolutely.
discussions. And that's a more subtle way, and it's difficult to explain. But it's something I'm trying to pay attention to, because we often make ourselves small by instinct because we were trained that way.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah, and the other one is just paying attention um, to the moon cycles and to my cycles. I'm really attuned with my personal cycle, and it grounds me. I love it. I love knowing that I can be super outgoing and energetic, or I can be a little bit more introspective. Yeah. So it really, my cycle
Allowing
defines,
to be
yes, my
where,
cycle defines my energy levels, definitely. And leaning into that means I can really accomplish more of the right kind of task during that phase of my cycle.
yeah.
Yeah.
So allowing yourself to be, but also to follow it in,
Yeah. Yes, yes.
sometimes we fight it.
Sometimes we have to. I mean, of course, I have like engagements or different projects where I have to be talks or exhibitions, and then you just have to,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
mm,
That's not
yeah,
fighting it. It's just adjusting a bit.
yes,
So let's talk about feminine symbols. That's
yes.
one of you have studied a lot about them. Can you walk us through, like, do they come as images first, as feelings, and what symbols are they?
I work a lot with different symbols of the sacred feminine, and they're ancient. They go back so many thousands of years, but they also weave their way into our religions, our major religions, and even Christianity does have a lot of these symbols, mostly associated with Mother Mary. So the rose is an important symbol. The pomegranate is a majorly important symbol of sacred femininity. Then the apple, and there are lots of different gemstones and materials that signify that too. Something like pearls are associated with the ocean, the subconscious, the moon, the cycles, also moonstones and amethyst. There's a whole sort of canon of symbols, and I try to weave these into my work. Also, the colors, red, obviously, these deep shades of red. I weave them into my jewelry because it's also a little bit like a aesthetic gateway drug to
Yeah.
start to work with these topics, even if you're not familiar. Yeah, and they come to me. Well, it's difficult to say. So I draw a lot
Mhm.
and I paint, and through these drawings, they're possibly, well, I think they're probably a window into my subconscious more than anything else when I just draw and see what comes, what emerges, and those shapes then become stylized and abstracted. So it's not necessarily that I work with the literal pomegranate always.
Mhm.
Often it's an abstracted form or just sort of this image of a lot of little seeds sitting there or spilling out or yes. So drawing is majorly important as well in my creative practice.
And all these symbols particularly come alive through your favorite medium, which is color.
Yes, yes.
I love that when you say add more color, because it's a very simple line, but it's very brave. And you said that color is alive, it's social, and sometimes even mischievous.
Mm.
The color that has been speaking to you or surprising you lately.
I'm surrounded by autumn colors right now, so those bright yellows and gold greens. But the color I'm sort of focusing on now is sort of the maroon, Bordeaux, deep mulberry reds. And when I speak of colors, it's often color combinations. I
Okay.
rarely think of colors alone, sort of neighbors flanking them, and sometimes two colors together or three colors together can serve to highlight the middle color. So it becomes even more prominent. So yes, so dark color names are also very important, by
Yeah.
the way.
I saw your panel with all your deep studies on color. It's beautiful. That itself, it's a work of art.
Thank you. Berry colors and yeah, I
So,
think.
what have color and light taught you about emotions? Is it something can shift just by the way it is illuminated?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm only beginning to understand it. I'm really, yeah, I'm not a color scientist, I'm not a psychologist, but it's so obvious that people's moods and people's states of beings can shift when they look at different colors. And I notice it in myself, I notice it in friends and customers. And it's in enamels specifically, light is also important because in transparent enamels, you have light falling into the layer of glass and it's being reflected back from different depths. So there's a luminosity and an aliveness to it because the light comes back reflected from different depths and layers inside this piece. So it's like a gemstone too. It's shimmering, reflective, and vibrant. Yeah, so that's just seeing how it shifts, and also color contrasts are important. So if you have a dark purple blue and a reddish orange yellow on two opposite spectrums and you put them together, there's a tension that happens, which I find really interesting. It's a sort of a push-pull, fascination, tension. And I mean, we see it in a sunset. Why is it so emotionally moving? I mean, it's a orange, yellow, goldish sun setting, and then there's a contrasting, a complementary color in the sky, and the two are moving together, and it's just emotionally moving. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. The way you describe these things and can easily explain it's mesmerizing. And I also feel that the studies that you're doing with color, they require time and paying attention, which is one of the points in your creative compass, which is kind of a rebellion in the world that we're in, because we're obsessed right now with speed, everything, running. And your compass actually suggests to value our time and the care. So what happens when you allow yourself to slow down completely?
Yeah, firstly, it's not that easy to do because we're really attacked at the moment. We are so everything seems to pull at our attention from different directions. So to push that away is like an act of will. But when I sort of breathe and slow down, I often realize how tense I've been. When you start breathing and you start relaxing and you realize you actually had a knot in your stomach the whole time, and you had like your breathing was restricted and you didn't fill your whole lungs. And my shoulders, mostly for me, it's in my shoulders and my stomach. And I feel there's a tension there. And the moment when I slow down and I pay attention to anything, really, well, it could be my body, but it could also be something outside of myself, I can soften. And I feel like we're wound up tight as springs, all of us, the whole time. And it's no wonder we're going crazy. So I guess it could be anything we put our attention on. It could be something we're making, but it should be something nourishing, not something that will hollow us out. The body, the breath is a good point to start, or nature, I
Yeah, we
think.
often forget. It's like
Yeah,
one of the
we
basic things,
forget.
but one of the ones we should tackle most when we feel
Yeah.
disconnected or tense. And also when you allow yourself to slow down and you
Yeah.
reconnect with yourself, you're also more inclined to better connect with others
Yes.
and the community. And speaking about community, so can you tell us a bit about your studio, Non 11? Because it's not
Yeah.
just a workspace, right? It's a place where you share stories, you create connection.
Yeah. Thank you for that question. Nonne 11 or Nonne 11, 11 is German for 11, is named after the street it's in because we wanted to sort of pay respect to the geographic area in Bamberg.
Yeah.
And we also wanted to keep it broad enough and vague enough in a way so that anything could be happening there. It's a studio I share with my husband, Alvaro Luca Elbert, who's also a jewelry designer, but he makes very, very different work from me. Um, and it's our studio where we make our work, but it's also a place to exhibit. It's a place to have artist talks and to have workshops. We teach workshops in enameling and sand casting, and we give lectures on topics like mythological metal alloys or color or intuitive drawing. There's a workshop coming up. So what happens there is people join us around a theme that moves them in a really important way, and there's a shift in the chemistry, and it's not a large space, so we're not talking like 50 100 people, we're talking like 12 15 people in a room, and there's an intimacy that happens there and a sharing of stories and an opening up that's so beautiful, and something we try to curate more and more using our work to get people in to really open up and connect among themselves. That's been so rewarding. Yeah.
This is this what community for you is in this moment of your life?
There are different kinds of community, of course, but yes, inviting people to join us in a space where we talk about what lights us up, about craftsmanship, about topics that have a positive impact on our lives. So yes, that's a really important part of community for me these days. I guess the relationships we build and we have are really the most important thing. They are the foundation for everything else.
Oh, yeah. Is there
Yeah.
any recent or less recent gathering that you have curated at non-11 that stayed with you particularly?
Yeah, I think, sorry?
No, no. I was just, yeah, that I know it all, of course, all has meaning, but sometimes there's a specific one that,
Yes, yes.
any
I
reason.
think I'm thinking of a workshop situation now where we had a really small, our in-depth workshops are small, so it's 4 people in a room learning a new skill. And it was so lovely to see these people didn't know each other. They were completely different in character and from completely different walks of life. And they connected so deeply in that workshop, creating, it was enameling, and they were creating pieces and experimenting, working with color. And we went for lunch together and they started talking to each other, discovered similarities, and eventually even like swapped our phone numbers.
Yes.
So these people travel there from different parts of Germany and they got to know each other, and it was amazing to see the kind of chemistry that developed. So that
Yeah,
feels meaningful.
yeah, definitely fulfilling. Well,
Yeah.
let's talk about keep searching. That's, I think it's the
Mm,
last point on your creative compass, right? It's like a fountain of youth. Can we define it that way? It's that openness that keeps life and creativity going and staying interested enough. What have you been exploring recently behind the scenes? That's, I think this is very inviting also for me, but also for others, right? To never stop asking questions even when things
yeah.
feel familiar. What have you been exploring recently?
Yeah, so I there's so many things that interest me, and my curiosity can go in too many different directions. It's also sometimes I have to rein it in a bit. Yeah, a subject that's been interesting me a lot lately is the cultural history of forests. So I love forests, and it's a very deep mythological theme as well, and a folklore and archetypal theme that's very, very embedded in the part of the world I live in now. So I've been doing research into how long has this been even a forested area. So there's the climate, the politics around forests and who was allowed to cut wood and the kind of life it sustained, the cultural history of a forest, actually. So that's just really, really fascinating.
Wow.
That's, yeah, just an
And
example of one of these rabbit holes.
I love, yeah, exactly. The rabbit holes. I'm into feng shui right now, so I get it.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Do you think that curiosity and devotion like feed each other? That the more you're devoted and the more curious you become?
Sure. Yeah, I think that the more attention you pay to something, the more curious you are about it, the more fascinated you can get. And boredom, I believe, is sort of a superficial thing. You can only be bored if you look at something really superficially. But the more you dive into something, and the more care you take with it, the closer you look, then the more you will discover, and it will lead you to the next. I mean, it's like
More doors.
paying attention to plants, and all of a sudden there's a whole world behind it. You can dive in. For me, at the moment, I'm interested in making more magical objects, and that's a whole rabbit hole on its own, infusing my work with even more meaning, and yeah, diving into that.
And speaking about what you create, how do you translate something as big as an idea or a spot
Hmm.
or a story into a piece of jewelry? How does that happen?
So there are many different kinds of stories. So the material tells a story, the shape of the piece tells a story, and the history of the crafts tradition tells a story, and my personal life story. These are all woven into something, and it's of course it can be difficult to distill it down to a single shape. But sometimes, so you have a material you work with. In my case, that's silver or gold or enamel, sometimes even textile and different gemstones. And each of these materials has a layer of story, has a whole symbol library in a way of different meanings. And I can pick and choose the different materials and fuse them together into something that gives meaning. So there's a lot of different options to create meaning there. I'm not sure if that answered your
Yeah,
question, but
that answers.
yeah.
Definitely, do you think that stories are what give object that soul?
Yeah, stories are what gives us meaning, certainly. And also the stories behind, like I said, the material has a story. For example, silver. There's a whole history of, also a cultural history of silver, how people have interacted with something and given it meaning. And there's the whole history of, for example, a shape, like the symbol of gold is a circle with a dot in the middle, or the moon, or a certain fruit, a certain plant. There's a whole canon of meanings behind every single thing. So it can be so rich if we look at something. But it's the meaning, yes, the meaning is made up by the stories that we place on it, the things that people have experienced through this particular object or archetype or shape or idea for millennia.
It's
Yeah.
like when we see something and we stop just at the beauty of it, but we don't really capture all those roots that are underneath. That's when you really get the full beauty and the full soul of it.
Mm.
So sometimes it's worth really asking what's behind that. That's the purpose of So Made by Her. What's behind an object?
Yes, yes. And also the personal stories of the makers, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. What do you have coming up right now in your
Apart
next?
from the busy Christmas
Yeah,
season.
sure. I just want to know, like, what do you have? Like, do you have workshops? Do you have labs, or what are you doing in non-11 right now?
So, yes, we have a couple of workshops coming up that we're busy um figuring out now. And these will be in early 2026. So next year, January to April, and they will be sand casting, which is a jewelry technique, enameling as well. I'm super excited about our intuitive drawing workshop that's coming up. I'm collaborating with my florist friend. She's a master florist, and we will create botanical installations and then do a drawing workshop around that piece of nature. And apart from that, I'm excited to be writing more again. I found myself disconnected from writing, and that's actually how this whole compass came to be. So I spent the whole summer writing every day and quite intensely and journaling with prompts. And through that, slowly I could articulate this whole compass and sort of just through a desire to give myself some more direction and really think about what I'm doing. And I took up my newsletter again, which I've sort of let go for the past 3, 4 years because I was so focused on our joint studio. And there's a German newsletter coming out there, which is sort of, just sort of invites people to different exhibitions and things we do there. But I have a more sort of poetic, philosophical newsletter in English. It's called Enchanted Garden, and I've just started doing it again, and I'm actually quite excited
I'm in.
about it. So that newsletter is also a place where you can, of course, find workshops that are happening or ideas, projects that are taking shape. But it's more than that. I just want to remind people of the Re-enchantment through that newsletter.
Absolutely.
So
Your
I will
compass
try.
is really a reminder that creativity is not like, it's not a destination. It's a way of being,
Yes.
regardless of what you work with. But even if it's not related to artisans and craftsmanship, it's just really a way of being and reminding what's important in our lives, which is connection, devotion, and returning to ourselves and keeping that wonder alive and that curiosity. Those are really good principles, like for really a great way of living aside creativity. So thank you so much for putting that into words. When I found it, I was completely speechless and I had to stop and go through it all.
Thank you. Thanks
It's
for
just very,
finding me.
and then through that, I discovered your art and your depth, and I really appreciate our chats, and I hope we'll have.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for being with us, Nora.
Take care, Alice.